Greetings. Greetings of peace and love. I'm Reverend Cardona. I'm here with Reverend Lisa Benton. Together we present Miracles with a Twist conversations. This is our opportunity to dig deep and unpack a class that was presented previous to this presentation. And Goddi Lisa, Reverend Lisa Benton, Goddi Lisa, looks at the presentation and gives us some feedback, and we get a chance to look a little bit deeper at what was presented during Miracles with a Twist. Miracles with a Twist was once a live stream. It's now transformed into a podcast. But what we're speaking about today is a Throwback Thursday, a presentation that took place in 2021. So let's begin by taking a nice deep breath together, exhaling into our hearts so that we can get grounded where we are. Where you are, at whatever time you're watching this or listening, just know that when our hands are on our hearts and we're feeling our heartbeats, we're feeling our connection with all our brothers and sisters, our mighty companions, our kindred spirits, all who cross our path, all who share this path with us, this very sacred journey. This journey of doing better and being better, of rising higher, forgiving steadily and loving readily. It's what we choose to do and what we're willing to do on a daily basis. And with that, we enter into this conversation grounded and with gratitude. We take another nice deep breath in and exhale into this moment. Hello, Goddi Lisa.
Hello, RevLo. It's wonderful to see you.
Good to see you.
How's your little puppy? Just want to check. Okay?
Yeah, puppy's fine. Puppy, old lady puppy.
Old lady, yes.
Yeah.
So, well, this throwback was from April of 2021, and it was so amazing for me because it happened to be a transformative a class that resulted in a transformation in my heart. And I actually understood and experienced how to see things differently. And that may sound crazy because it's very basic teaching in A Course in Miracles with help me to see things differently, to see things through the eyes of Christ, with Buddha mind, whatever works for you, what you want to call it. But what happened on Thursday, and I remember that class as clear as a bell because of the transformation. And I had come in a pretty snotty mood, not with my fellow spiritual community, but with Jesus. And I had felt that Jesus didn't, and I looked through my notes and I can't find exactly what it was that ticked me off, but somehow Jesus had said something in the course, and I thought, well, he couldn't have meant that he must have meant something else or whatever, and I was analyzing, basically saying, well, he's just wrong. And so that's kind of crazy. Even if I think about it now, and I'm thinking, Jesus isn't wrong. These teachings aren't wrong. My perception obviously was wrong. And so I was anxious about that. And I was also, and what was helping to my anxiety was getting balled up in teachings from the literal Christian scripture teachings, and St. Paul saying, faith without action is dead. So I had experienced something that really bothered me, and I couldn't find a way of seeing it differently. There was nothing I could do. And plus, even if I could do something, what could I do? There was nothing that I could do. And that was making me, if faith without action is dead, and and I don't do anything, then what does that mean? So that shows the level of where I was just 2 years ago. But I believe probably a lot of people feel, faith without action is dead. And what do I do in a situation when I don't know what to do? You shared with us a story of your experience in Plum Village, where, and I would like everyone to know that RevLo, when she gets a chance, likes to name drop Plum Village and Thich Nhat Hanh, but were I her, I would do the exact same thing. So you talked about this experience of having roomed next to a mother and daughter
Yes.
who were, you're in this very holy environment, and they were having a knockdown, drag out fight. And it was disturbing, and you were trying to be real quiet, and you had to sneeze and all this stuff, and you didn't want anybody to know you were there. But anyway, it was very disturbing to hear this mother and daughter fighting very vehemently. And so later on in the day, you were all required to speak to somebody and say something to someone. And you got chosen to speak to the mother who was attacking her daughter, and I would imagine the daughter was attacking her and all that stuff, and it had disrupted your time. And you chose to reach out to this woman as a mother, and you told her how grateful you were to see her and her daughter there, that you were grateful that they had that experience, because you and your mom didn't have the relationship that they had that would bring them to Plum Village, and to experience that whole thing. That hit me like, oh my gosh, what that must have done for that woman, knowing after you sneezed that someone had heard her, and maybe she probably knew it was you, and that's what you saw in her, that's what you chose to see in her, was this beautiful mother-daughter group reaching out into this beautiful holy environment for this experience. And I don't really know how long it was, whether it was a week or a weekend or whatever, but it was a holy experience. And what a blessing that was for them and for you to see it. And I thought what that must have done to that woman. And it was like, that's it. Seeing exactly what you did. And I think I even said that in the class. So the transformation of seeing this differently was the action that I was so looking for. Because having been raised Roman Catholic, I took a lot of things literally and believed that, if action was fixing, how do I fix this? How do I do this? Or how do I blame myself? Something, but I had to do something. But the switch in perception, seeing things differently, that was the action. That's the faith that God, Spirit are in us working. And if we just let it happen, it happens. And that story of this, what peace you must have brought to her, I can only imagine, because I know what peace the story brought to me. And on top of the peace was the awareness. And that was the first time that I experienced a change in perception, helped me to see this differently and seeing it differently, because I saw, and I'm sure I said, so it was the switch in perception that was the action. And that to me may sound very simplistic to some, but to me it was transformational. And I have taken that with me ever since that day, where I came in a snotty mood, mad at Jesus, figuring I knew everything, and came out of there, I felt like I was floating. It was just so, oh my gosh, aha, whatever you want to call it. And since then, I have been more and more empowered by the change in perception, seeing things differently. I mentioned last week Ho'oponopono, Tonglen prayer, metta prayer, different ways of praying for people when you can't fix what's going on. You can show up as a loving vessel, can send out love, you can take in pain and anger and transform it and send out love. You can send peace. There's just so many things. You can forgive somebody you don't want to forgive. You can forgive them. It's just, if you just see it a little differently, someone calling out for love, you see that calling for love, like that mother. That's what she was doing with her child. That's what they were both doing, trying to get the other to love them the way they felt they were supposed to be loved. And so it was an aha moment. It was an amazing moment. And from that point on, I was able to work more and more on defaulting to show me how to see this differently, rather than how do I fix this? What do I do to get out of this? How am I going to get through this? Help me to see things differently. So there you go.
Yeah, thank you. I want to address something you said very early on, because I think it's important to note that even though the lessons point us to something that seems simplistic in how it's said, applying it and living it is an advanced yoga pose.
Yes.
I mean, we really have to stretch and pay attention to ourselves and notice when we're making those sometimes little incremental changes, because the change in perception is addressing and disrupting a habitual way of seeing.
Right.
And that habitual way of seeing usually has to do with judgment, condemnation. I mean, how easy would it be to gossip about that mother and daughter, for me to gossip about them, to tell everybody what I heard, what I saw, how easy it would have been to say something that would have shamed them in some way. That's the easy stuff. That's actually the easy stuff, because that's the stuff we either do or have had done to us. The harder part is to move out of that way of being and to recognize that seeing differently is looking at what's beneath that thing that we're judging. Right. So the thing that I'm judging is, like, the mother and the things she's saying, and the daughter actually pleading with her to stop, and applying the concept of seeing it differently opens my heart, opens my compassion, opens my mind. It puts me in a position of having to see what the mother might be going through. It takes time to adjust to that change in perception, and to default back to the other way is quite easy. Sure is. Especially if it's affecting us personally. They weren't affecting me personally. They were affecting me in the sense that I was disrupted by, the energy of that upset, and also, questioning how do I approach them in the future. And thank goodness I was in an environment that was encouraging us to constantly be in a state of mind where you were thinking with the heart of compassion, and they would ring that bell. That's how I got in the habit of setting my alarm 10 times a day, is the bells of Plum Village. Somebody would hit a gong and you just stopped what you were doing. You literally just stopped in your tracks and took a deep breath and thought, here I am in this moment. What am I thinking? What am I doing? And if we did that periodically through the day, then maybe we would reel back all our judgments and all our condemnations more often, and start noticing, oh, I am starting to see things differently. I'm not being so reactive to somebody who's rude in the store, or something that I read that bothers me, whatever it is, like when you were having an issue with Jesus that day, and then the other thing you brought up was that saying, faith without action is dead. And in all honesty, I never really understood it. I've heard people say it time and time again, and sometimes it seems kind of cliche. I think concern without action is not getting us anywhere.